Hello, everybody. It's Bryony from Mental Health Mates. I think it's almost time to start. I have several different times on my computer, my phone, and my Apple Watch. So as soon as Jake arrives, or Jake is here, but as soon as he turns on his camera, we will get going. Thank you, everyone. Oh, here he is.
Hello.
Hi, Jake.
Hi.
It's Jake Tyler, everybody.
Hello.
So yeah, I'm Bryony. For those who don't know, I founded Mental Health Mates 5 years ago. I think it's a place where you can walk and talk without fear of judgment. And obviously, with the pandemic, we had to adapt a bit, although walks are back up now. But the one thing that's come out of it are these Mental Health Mates at home monthly events where we have different guests each month. I think this is like our 5th month, but I'm not entirely sure. I do know that when we started doing these Mental Health Mates at homes, it was pitch black outside and fairly miserable. And now it's light outside and fairly miserable. Certainly where I am, only weather-wise, not in my mood. Anyway, this month, I am so happy to have the wonderful Jake Tyler here. Jake
Hi.
is the author of this book, A Walk from the Wild Edge. Now, I first met Jake probably 4 years ago, I think, on Marathon Day. Now, Jake is very special, and I'm going to tell you a bit of what he did. Now, you started something called Black Dog Walks, didn't you? Was that what it was called?
Yeah, well, that's I felt like I needed to brand the challenge, and that's what I landed on. Yeah.
So just so everyone knows, before Jake starts talking about himself, please start asking questions if you want. If you could put the questions in the Q&A box and not the chat, just because they can get lost in the chat, and we want to ask as many of your questions to Jake as possible. That would be great, and I'll just be asking them throughout the session. So please do, whenever something comes up that you want to ask Jake about, just put it in there and we will get chatting. Some people are raising their hands, but it's best if you put it in the Q&A if you have a question. Anyway, Jake, tell us a bit about your I was going to say your kind of metaphorical and journey, but your actual journey that you made, because this book is about something quite incredible that you set out to do. Tell us all about it.
Okay, so thanks for having me, by the way. This is lovely. So a few years ago, I finished a 3,000-mile journey around mainland Great Britain on foot. So I think I ended up walking about 2,200 miles and ran 800 or so miles at the end.
Just I love that. You just casually just threw in 800 miles that you ran at the end.
Yeah. No. I mean, I could never do. I don't even know how I did it now, thinking about it. But my reasons for doing it weren't because I'm a sort of adventure runner, David Goggins type guy, and wanted to set myself this big challenge, which was like a step up from something else. I did what I did because I did it off the back of a sort of a really dark place in my life where everything had become really overwhelming and really not just unmanageable, but just kind of unlivable. And I've been having sort of depressive thoughts for most of my 20s, but never really gave any thought to it, and certainly didn't tell anyone about it, and certainly didn't go and help, ask for help about it. And through years of trying to work, not through it as in not trying to understand it, but years of trying to block it out and try and progress in life, I ended up just mismanaging all that kind of stress and bad feeling, and it all just blew up. I was running a bar in East London, and I had a big problem with booze at the time and a big problem with cocaine at the time, and just found myself in the darkest place of my life, basically. And without going too heavy too early. It was
Heavy. This is the place for heavy.
this
We hold heaviness in these sessions.
Yeah.
Like, God, if you can't go heavy early in a mental health mates at home session, where can you?
Okay, yeah, all right, fair enough. Well, I mean, it's weird because I don't know. I've been feeling a little flat in myself recently, and I'm sort of, I feel myself doing that thing where I'm breezing over the severity of, not what I'm doing at the moment, but the severity of anything I'm talking about. I just want to kind of get to the end of it and not. It's weird that it's almost like I don't want to waste people's time talking about it. Do you know?
Because the book has done incredibly well, and it's absolutely fantastic, and it's very moving, but I find personally having a book out that is about something deeply personal, you almost become disassociated from what happened. And then you get, if you're, it sounds like a good problem to have, but if you're lucky enough to be able to talk about it in the media, it becomes this sort of almost this separate person, and you start to do that thing. Well, I certainly start to do that thing which is, I think, a symptom of mental illness in itself, where you start to kind of underplay and go, oh, it wasn't that bad, or I wasn't that bad, and how dare I be standing up and talking about these things to people as if I know what I'm talking about. And I realize that's my illness in itself, like getting bedded in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and also when you've got loads of time to sit on your own and really think about it and try and make your experience sort of palatable for an audience, you end up there's a certain amount of trivialization, I think, that happens, and a certain amount of like not hamming and not exaggerating, but definitely trying to sort of slightly dramatize it in a way that is going to make it a more impactful story or something. Because the whole time I was writing this book, I was fully aware that 99% of people who were going to read it wouldn't know who I was and or what I've done. So I have to kind of come out the gates really strong and describe this really painful time in my life with sort of like some verve and some kind of like, I don't know, in a way that I wouldn't choose to do it normally, with an extra bit of drama. And so now when it comes to me trying to explain what it was I went through, my mind sort of does this thing where I go through that gate and think, okay, well, is that how I want to say it now? Is that really how it happened? How did it actually happen? And I get kind of confused. I mean, it's been, the publicity I've got for the book has just been, I can't believe I've managed to be interviewed on so many things, but retelling the story over and over again, it's almost like there's a part of me that wants to kind of shut that now. And I know that's really stupid to say because it's out there. The whole story's out there, and this is the time when people are really going to start asking me about it. Writing it all down and doing so in such detail, and there was a certain amount of closure that came with that. And now every time I bring it up, you're right, it sort of feels like I'm detached from this thing that happened. But in the interests of doing a webinar and talking about it, then I'll just rattle through.
Well, I was going to say, if it's okay, can I help you rattle through? Because I met you I think I knew of you from before, but on the day of the London Marathon 2017, where we were both running it together. And Jake, you were one of the people that was chosen to take part in Mind Over Marathon, which was that fantastic documentary in which people with mental health issues were selected to go, and to see how running a marathon would help with their mental health. And so you were you hadn't finished your walks, you hadn't done the whole, so you were sort of, how far were you into it when that?
I was more or less exactly halfway through. So I feel like I need to backtrack slightly. So following this sort of dark period, through a series of kind of events, I decided that being outside and being immersed in nature and having time away from people and life and the noise of it all was what I needed to do to try and get better. And I decided to walk around Great Britain because I just wanted to live in the tent for a year and not deal with anything more than anything. And so yeah, I started on June the 27th, 2016, and I started in Brighton, and I just started heading west. And, you know, just to reinforce that I'm not an athlete, and I'm definitely not a sort of survivalist, Bear Grylls, Ray Mears type guy. I think I set myself 7 months to do the whole thing. And after 7 months, you know, I'd done the south of England and most of Wales. And so I had to replan everything. But I mean, I got an email from the BBC about while I was in Wales. And it was weird, actually. It was an old friend of mine who got in touch completely randomly. I hadn't heard from her about 10 years. And she said, I've got a friend who's doing some casting at the BBC, and I hope you don't mind, but I've put your name forward for this documentary. Have you ever run a marathon before? That's what he wants to know. I was like, no. And then that was it for a while. And then while I was walking through Wales and it was getting colder, and I just sort of became the smell of damp and mold, and it was all pretty miserable. I got an email asking me to be in this documentary about running and about mental health and all that sort of thing. And it just seemed like the thing to do, you know, break for winter, record this documentary. It will help keep the focus on the mental health aspect of all this. And then I'll head back off afterwards. So we spent, I think it was 6 months in the end filming. And obviously it was a 2-part series. So the first episode came out 4 days before the marathon. And then obviously the cameras were there on marathon day, and the second episode came out just after it. And it was really, you know, it changed everything, you know, in terms of, you know, that the first half of the walk was like a very much a sort of introspective thing. I mean, I was trying to raise money for charity, and I was trying to use it as a platform to talk about, you know, this period in my life and depression in general, and why being outside is so great. But I was mostly directing it all to sort of friends and family, and then having this sort of, because the documentary did really well, and everyone on marathon day recognized us. It was really bizarre, including you. And it was just
we finished a minute apart, didn't we?
yeah, we did. And we finished just in front of this guy called Ben Smith, who ran 401 marathons in 401 days once. But yeah, so that actual marathon day was a real eye opener. Just because, you know, running was always something that I thought was a physical thing. And you know, on that day, it was all about it. You know, running the marathon was just a big celebration of everything that had come before it, like all the training, all the hard work that had gone before. It was just like, let's just enjoy ourselves. And it just none of it was about performance, you know, physically, time and all that sort of thing. It was just a really amazing day. And so, yeah, met you, and I think we did. I stuck around for a bit afterwards. We ended up doing all of us lot from the documentary did a walk for class with Kenny about a month afterwards, and I feel like I properly met you then.
Yeah. And
yeah, and all of a sudden this thing that I'd started, you know, the walk was just like the idea behind it was all for me, but you know, through being in this documentary and talking about my mental health and hearing from other people as well afterwards, that was the main difference. You know, I was starting to hear a lot more from other people. You know, the whole thing became sort of bigger than me, and everything that happened as a result of this really dark time in London became really, really profound. And I went into the second half of the walk with, you know, this feeling that I wanted to kind of talk more, not so much about myself, but to other people about what they were going through. And very weird couple of years.
We just lost you there. I lost you there a bit, Jake.
Oh, sorry. I'm losing myself as well. I'm
No,
not sure.
carry on. I was getting a bit emotional. Carry on.
I mean, I remember, yeah. So I remember seeing you on Marathon Day, and then yeah, and then we did this Walking Out of Darkness event for Kenny's charity, Clasp, a suicide prevention charity, and it was the first time me and all the guys from the documentary got together. But yeah, we hung out all day, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a barbecue as well.
We had a barbecue, yeah. And I had real bad, because I think you might have still been drinking at the time. I don't think you were sober by that time. I remember getting really pissed in your garden and waking up with the biggest hangover fear, because I told you a really disgusting story about a girl I'd slept with in my tent while I was on the floor.
Yeah, I remember that story. We won't share it here tonight.
Yeah.
It's really funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's like, it's so interesting, isn't it, how the universe works, and like,
yeah,
it brings people together. And we have very similar stories. There you were in East London drinking and drugging. There I was, like, in plain sight drinking and drugging.
Yeah.
Like, and I always remember another one of the people in the marathon. I remember him coming to the barbecue from my Never Marathon, and he was sober, but quite new, the year sober. And I remember thinking, are you okay?
Yeah.
You don't drink at all. And it was a real kind of, I remember seeing that the energy around all the mental health. And you're right, Marathon Day, it was magic. It was magic.
It really was, yeah.
It was a real turning point to see that actually there was a choice in life. And the choice, this was personally for me, is I could carry on that road of just kind of wasting my life, drinking and drugging, or I could
not looking after yourself. Yeah,
or I could take a turn and embrace this thing that had happened, and these amazing positive people I'd met through it, like you.
Yeah.
And it was quite soon after. It was literally like a couple of months after that I got sober.
Yeah.
But this
that whole time, from, I feel like from sort of 2016 to 2018, 2019, I don't know whether it's because I was immersed in it and whether you were immersed in it as well, but it's sort of like, looking back on that time now, it sort of feels like a bit of a happening, a bit of a sort of like, the mental health conversation became so ubiquitous, and so, more or less everyone decided unanimously that we need to talk about our feelings a bit more now, and to be within the sort of, like, I guess, the sort of public figure side of that, I managed to get these connections with certain people like yourself and Charlie Dark and all these people who were talking about, really publicly talking about it all at the same time. And it was just a really, really special time. And so I went into the second half of my walk with this sort of slightly different energy. Like, it was all bigger than me by this point. And yeah, I was doing this big adventure and stuff, but what was this big adventure? Was this, what was I really getting out of this? Is it about me using it as a platform to talk about this dark period in my life? Still, no, probably not. Is it about me, achieving beyond what I think is capable of me to achieve physically? There was a little bit of that, but it was more like I recognized the opportunity to talk to the country on one-on-one. The amount of people that I met while I was out there. I mean, I ended up writing on my backpack, I'm walking around Britain in the name of mental health. Come and talk to me. Just because I just wanted that interaction. Like, as I said, the first half of the walk, there was an element of me wanting to get away from everybody. And, the sort of videos I do and the blogs I'd write were all more, kind of to keep my family abreast of what was
disconnecting from people, but connecting with nature and the world around you.
Yeah, that was the vibe in the first half. and then the second half came around, and because it had gone up a level in terms of how publicly I was speaking about it and was making these connections with all these kind of great people. And I was noticing things like, specifically like the language everyone was using was so similar. It didn't matter who they were, how old they were, what sort of background they had, when they were expressing their sort of vulnerabilities and their emotional response to life. Everyone was using the same kind of language, and it was just that it was a real eye opener. And I mean, it made me feel less freakish and more comfortable with the sort of low times that I get. But it just made me want to say to everyone else, like, yeah, no, it's all fine, because this is stuff we all go through at certain times, if not directly, then indirectly. And so, yeah, I set off on this on the second half of my walk with this totally changed attitude about everything, and it was really liberating. And I just wanted people involved, and I invited you along to kick off the second part of me. I actually invited before you got there. I walked from Stoke to Edale, because I think we met in Edale, which is where the Pennine Way starts, and we had that really amazing day.
It was like a heat wave.
Yeah, yeah, that really beautiful day in the Peak District. It was me, you, your friend Jada, and Pete Thompson, who was the guy that I'd met on Twitter about another mental health guy who'd done this other fucking absurd challenge where he'd run a marathon in every country in Europe on consecutive days. There's 44 countries in 44 days. He'd run a marathon,
and then he went on to run the Tour de France, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, absolute lunatic. But yeah, he came as well, and so it was this really kind of strange little motley crew that we had. But everyone was on the same page with the importance of it, of being outside and walking, and I mean, it was just great. I mean, it's Sam from the show. He came and walked with me, from Stoke to Edale, so over 2 days. Then he had to go home, unfortunately, and then you guys all turned up, and yeah, it was to start the second part of the walk when I was really feeling like I wanted to involve other people, to have people with me to kind of kick it off was really great, actually.
It's also such an amazing, it does show how much that thing of the journey, which sounds so kind of cheesy, but one makes as they set out, and that you wanted to be alone. You set out essentially because you wanted, life had become too much,
massive, too
toxic, and you needed to sort of disconnect. But actually, then as you go along, you want to be around people again.
But I mean that was, if when I think about it now, that's obviously how it was going to go, because that's how it goes in normal life as well. It's just less extreme. I'm in Malden at the moment. I'm not in Brighton. I'm on my mum's boat, which you can probably tell. In fact, look, the tide's just coming in. Let me show you. This is how great it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's the prom over there. That's Northey Island over there, and then further over that way is Osey, where you went to some kind of fitness day thing there once and invited me over. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. So I'm here at the moment, and it's the first time I've seen my family in ages, and I got really excited to come back here, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to see everyone. I'm just going to relax. I'm just going to chill. And actually, I've ended up feeling very sort of flat, and like I want to. And when I feel like that, I sort of retreat. But I wish I was staying here for 2 weeks now, and I kind of wish that I was going to be sort of here on my own, which will do me absolutely no favors whatsoever. I know that, but it's just reaching for that instant comfort rather than trying to push yourself out and do something that requires a bit of effort to play the long game. It sort of abandons me sometimes. But yeah, sorry, my point was that idea of hiding away when I was feeling low and wanting to escape was magnified enormously through the walk. I'm just going to have a tent and nothing else, and just sleep in fields and be a million miles away from everything and everyone. And then as I start to feel better, as I do in normal life, I start to miss people, and I start to feel like I want to reconnect, and it's just a really natural thing for me for it to happen. And yeah, as I said, it just, because of the nature of my life back then, it just happened in a quite extreme way. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously what I needed at the time.
It's probably what a lot of people actually, it's a kind of good metaphor for what everyone's experiencing kind of as we come out of lockdown, you know.
Yeah.
I definitely thought that actually I was happy with this disconnection, and like I put myself in my own sort of pretend tent, which was in my, you know, shut everyone out, and now I'm a bit like, actually I need people.
Yeah.
Loads of questions coming in. Pete in Ross on Wye. Hi Pete.
Hi Pete.
Following Black Dog Walks was a big inspiration for me at the time. Thank you for sharing.
Oh man, thanks very much.
Do you find, I want to talk to you about men and mental health, and that sort of the you know, we know that, for example, the biggest killer of young men in this country is not guns or road traffic accidents, it's themselves.
Yeah.
Have you found in the time from when you started your walks to now, have you noticed a change in how men talk about their feelings to you? Or, you know, does it feel more natural, or have we still got some way to go, do you think?
Yeah, I feel like I've noticed a shift. It's hard to tell because I've within my world and within my friends, you know, I've sort of become this person that people go to talk about stuff. So whether or not it's kind of localized with me, or whether it's a big, I mean, I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that men in general, and people in general really are recognizing the need to be open and to lean on people when times get really hard. But I mean, at the same time, you know, I'll read an article or hear a story, you know, or hear in general that people are talking more, but you know, then I see the kind of more like the undesirable side of maleness still massive out there all the time, and the pressures to you know, the sort of indirect pressures to be unemotional and to be you know, to not bother other people with your problems and to sort it all out yourself, and you know, and the idea that by being open about your feelings and about life, you're emasculating yourself in some way. I mean, it's weird because I don't think I've heard anyone other than, you know, the really awful people say things like that, you know, Katie Hopkins, the Piers Morgan, you know, who kind of condemn this male soul bearing thing as this totally emasculating thing. And I don't really, you know, in fact, I don't care at all about what they say, but it's more a sort of deep feeling, you know, because there isn't sort of placards everywhere with men going like, stop talking about your feelings, you sound gay and you sound like a woman, and there's none of that, but there is still this just sort of feeling, this simmering feeling that it's all still there. And I don't know whether it's being perpetuated and it's sort of out there for public consumption, or it's just a sort of residual, that's just how it's been for so long, and it's so much a part of society that we all sort of have it deep down in us somewhere. And maybe the voice saying that, yeah, you shouldn't talk about your feelings is more of an internal thing. So it's really it's tough, man. Sorry.
It's quite sort of, it's conditioning, so that, you know, it's interesting because it's like lots of those things, it's sort of systemic, it's so deeply ingrained in us that people don't have to be saying it out loud, and we can tell ourselves, well, people aren't saying it, so it's my thing, but it's over kind of centuries and decades, isn't
that's
it?
What I mean. That's what I mean. And it makes it really difficult to address. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like I can't back it up. I can't, you know, if I was to sit opposite someone who had these sort of antiquated views on masculinity and, yeah, you know, you shouldn't talk about your feelings and all this sort of thing. Firstly, I'd be struck that there's someone who exists who is being willing to say it that openly. But then, you know,
in a way, it would be easier.
maybe, but at the same time, I'd sort of say, I feel like I sort of come unstuck and just say, it would be my instinct to say, yeah, you're just like everybody, and how your attitude is shouldn't be around anymore, and it's still everywhere. And if they turned around and said, well, who else says what I've just said? I'm not sure I could think of anybody. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I mean. It's like so deeply ingrained, and absolutely systemic. The world is moving slowly, or the Western world, I guess, is moving slowly towards empowering minorities, and it's all great and everything, but we're still built on centuries and thousands of years where it was powerful men and men lusting for power and money that has built everything. It's at the foundation of everything, and so it's no surprise that some of it kind of seeps through. And I've been talking openly about my feelings for about 5 years now, and I obviously don't see anything other than it's be anything other than a positive thing, and it's how it should be. And yet I still struggle with that sometimes. I still feel like I'm being judged by some, I don't know, like it's like some guy with a perfect beard behind every building just going, you know what I mean? You don't, but
well, no, but I was going to say, like, how much is because people, Andrea Silva says, how do you find a way to cope with your mental health? Now, I think there can be there's a sort of assumption when someone's, when you've written a book, and as you said, you have to very much give it a beginning, a middle, and an end. And of course, mental health isn't like that. There isn't, there's not magic cures, and there's not, it's an ongoing journey. Like, how have you, how do you manage your mental health, and have you got better at noticing the signs, or because I'm imagining that it hasn't like gone away.
No, not at all. It's I mean, I really think that what happened to me 5 years ago when I went into that really, really sort of dark suicidal place. I think about that time very philosophically now, and everything that's come off the back of that has sort of been transformational. Like I feel like I'm this different person now as a result of it. And so learning to embrace or accept those times where I go into a low place is a big change. I don't beat myself up for that anymore. And by doing that, I am more aware of when it's sort of creeping in, and it sort of depends where I am, who I'm with, and what I'm up to at that time, which determines how sort of manageable or unmanageable it gets, I suppose. So at the moment, I'm here. I'm like in my safe place. I'm on the boat, and I'm feeling a bit flat and stuff. So I feel all right, but I'm also kind of away from my partner. She lives in Brighton, and so I rely on her an awful lot for things. And I've got my running stuff on me though, so I can go for a run at some point, and that'll probably help. To answer your question, yeah, I do. I feel like I'm able to identify when those feelings are sort of creeping in a little bit more now, and I feel better equipped after learning to talk about it without embarrassment for the most part now, and knowing that in order to get myself out of it, requires a small amount of effort. I can't drink myself out of it, or I can't watch TV myself out of it, or I can't cut myself off from other people out of it. I have to kind of put in some effort at least, and go for a run, or get up early and get stuff done, or just try and build myself. Because at the end of the day, the low feeling I get is it hits my self-esteem really hard. And so I now know that by doing certain things that require a small amount of effort, it sort of intercepts it and makes me not feel like just a waste of space. And yeah, I feel like I can get out of it a lot easier these days.
That is a really good point. Like, I know it's like that practical thing of like, I have to sometimes tell myself in the morning, like I can wake up and I don't know about you, but I can wake up and not want to do anything like
Yeah.
my diary for that day and feel like I want to disconnect from it. And I've
Mhm.
learned now that if I just get on and do it, even when I don't want to, and I just get the stuff that I'm putting off, like procrastinating about. So it can be really simple. It could be like, I don't know, paying a bill, or calling my mum, or tidying my bedroom. Like, well, I'm 40, not 14, but do you know what I mean? Like, it can be those things, and
Yeah.
if I force myself to do them, I do feel so much better at the end of it. And it's like that thing that if I know now that if I stay in bed and I don't go for a run, what that would, it, you know, physically it's probably not going to make that much difference to me, but the difference it does make is that I'm a little bit down on myself the rest of the day because I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And I think it's those little things, as you said, you it's the self-esteem. And it's like, I have a friend who always says to me, if you want good self-esteem, do esteemable things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, and obviously, you know, when times get really, really hard, and you do just want a 0 day, and you know, just in bed all day, and you can't even look at the stuff you've got to do, you know, it's a lot easier to have those days, and a lot less, I feel a lot less guilt having those days. If the last couple where I was just, you know, where I wasn't really, you know, in bits, but I was a bit flat, if I pushed myself in those times to do a few little things, then having that 0 day later on when I really need it is a lot easier. It comes without the side order of guilt, I think.
Yeah,
because I mean, this is one thing that I took, as I said, like a lot of my friends sort of come to me with, I don't know, you know, one sort of advice and that sort of thing. And the thing I always say to them is that, you know, what are you doing in your downtime? You know, how are you resetting? You know, how are you? And most of them say, you know, oh, when I've got my day off, I'm like, I just turn my phone, you know, I don't do anything. I just sit and I reset and I do. And I always say, you know, how does that make you feel afterwards? And they go, well, a bit like a loser, but I feel like I did need that time away from it. And it's like, well, you know, you can have downtime without, you know, that involves a small amount of effort. You know, I mean, the go-to would be going for a long walk somewhere. And I know walking became sort of everyone's lifeline a little bit over lockdown, which is really nice to see. And I really hope people continue with that, because it is so much better and so much healthier and so much such a better use of time to do that, because within that you're experiencing things. I mean, being out, things just happen when you're outside, you know, that you're not expecting, and you have these kind of really still moments and totally calm moments, and I you know, I still think there's something undeniably calming about being in a natural setting, because well, I don't know why, but you know, you look out to sea, or you're in the woods, or you look at mountains, or whatever, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense to look at. It makes sense to be there. And so often in life, I feel like none of it makes any sense, because it's not been here long enough. It's not part of us. I interviewed Matt Haig once on my radio show, and he said, what was it? He said, humans are 1,000-year-old hardware trying to run 21st century software. And it's so true. It's so true. There's, you know, when life becomes completely unmanageable, and you decide to have your downtime within it, you know, in front of the TV or getting hammered in the pub, I think it just feeds into the cycle of being somewhere that doesn't make sense to you really at that time as a human being. And stepping away from it all and going somewhere where, you know, that's real life out there. That's what I realized when I was doing this walk. It's like, you know, open space and fresh air and the world that's been here for 1 billion years before I got here. That's the real stuff.
I feel quite emotional listening to you, because I, you know, on a personal level, I have this feeling right now that something's not quite right, and of course it's because I've been cooped up in the city for a year, like most people in the same place. And we went to Cornwall at the weekend, and I stepped out in the morning to have my coffee and my fag in the garden. I could smell that kind of like the smell of like cow dung, and I felt, though, intrinsically safe. It's really strange. And then I could smell the smell of the sea, and it was like, it right sizes you as well. Do you know what I mean? It right sizes you. You can be like, rah, 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 stuff's going on. Oh, my life's going to end. The world's going to end. And you're like, no, it's not going to end. It's going to carry on. Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. It really puts everything into perspective for me. Yeah. You know, because you know your world is. Everyone thinks the world is the world within their own head, and it's not. You know, to feel insignificant in this world, and to feel like you're only here for a short, really tiny amount of time, and the big picture is so much bigger than you, it's incalculable. I take real comfort in that, because it makes me want to make use of the time I have here and to experience everything there is, because you know what else is there. I think that's what life should be about, really.
Oh, Jake, I want to go walk with you. There's quite a few questions, so I want to kind of go through them. Lucy Gardner, this is not really a question, she says, but I just finished your book. What a wonderfully honest, comforting and powerful read. Also really funny at times. I lost my sister to suicide, and I think the last time she was happy was climbing Snowdon with her dog. Nature is freedom, isn't it? How does it feel to hear that kind of message from lovely Lucy?
Well, I mean, I want to thank her first for sharing. You know, I can't imagine what that must be like. You know, but I'm also really sort of happy that that you use, you know, the being outside. And did she say that they were up Snowdon together, or she was?
I think her sister was happiest when she was walking Snowdon.
Right, yeah, and you know, I get that completely. I mean, I kind of want to say to Lucy, if she hasn't done it already, then a trip up there would feel really amazing and kind of significant, and without wanting to dish out loads of advice, tell people to do things. Like, I don't know if Lucy's able enough to do that, but I want to say to her that you know, if it means a lot to you that she was up there and that was when she was last happy, and obviously dealing with the grief of it all must have been really, really tough. I think going up Snowdon yourself would probably be a really, really cool thing to do.
There's some more questions, and thank you, Lucy, for sharing that as well. I think
thank you.
It's amazing when people kind of like put, you know, but also to know that your vulnerability in that book has enabled someone else to be vulnerable, and then there will be someone who saw that comment or heard that question, and that will help them, and it's like a domino effect. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a bit of magic, you know.
It is.
Okay, so an anonymous attendee. Hello, anonymous attendee. My question for Jake is, how did you prepare for your walk? Did you talk to people about it beforehand? Did you have route plans? And if so, how did you come up with it? I love walking, and it has been beneficial for my mental health too. Would love to do a long walk, but I worry about how to plan it out.
Oh, then go and talk to someone else. Seriously, I honestly, it was the most unprepared amateur. Like, I can't stress enough how awfully prepared I was for this thing, because I didn't know what I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't really know what I was going to need. I spent a bit of time on forums, you know, researching kit. I started plotting a route on just Google Maps before a friend of mine who's a bit of a seasoned walker who uses Ordnance Survey maps heard that I was doing it that way and invited me around. I was like, no, you need Ordnance Survey maps. You need to know where you go. And it was calamitous. I got lost all the time. Lost my boots, lost really important items, camped where I shouldn't camp. I mean, if I was to give you some advice, it would be to plan, but don't take planning advice from me, because I still don't know what I'm talking about. I can read an Ordnance Survey map pretty well now. So maybe the Ordnance Survey app is £5 a month to get. If you're a big walker, then you can plot routes on there, and it shows every little footpath and every little bridleway and stuff. And maybe, I mean, when I started getting into it more, I'd sit in my tent and I'd get on the app and plot my route for the day. And when I did that, I ran into less trouble. So maybe that should be my advice. Download an app and let it do it for you.
Ordnance Survey. My husband is obsessed with that. We were recently in the Cotswolds, and we were staying at the end of a nature reserve, and I said, "Oh, there's a walk, there's a route round it," and I thought, I'm just going to work it out with my sense. He said, "No, Bryony, I'm going to use the Ordnance Survey app." And what happened? We got fucking lost.
Did you really? Oh
yeah.
No!
And then my sense
it's so comprehensive.
Is quite good. Like I'm actually I can't drive, but I've got a very keen sense of direction. So the anonymous attendee, take me with you. I'll come
Take Bryony. That's my advice.
I'm a human compass. There's so many. Okay. Jacqueline says, what a great adventure out of a sad situation, but not everyone is able to take off when faced with mental health issues. Is there anything else you might suggest to anyone who can't just like jack it all and just go and live in a tent?
Yeah, well, I should say, yeah, I do. I recognise the immensely privileged position I was in to embark on something like that. Not just circumstance. I didn't just not have a partner or kids, or and I'd been signed off work, so I didn't have a work to go back to. But I'm also, a 6 foot bloke as well. I mean, I remember walking in Pembrokeshire, and I bumped into this woman who was walking the Pembrokeshire coast, which is about 190 miles, and she was doing it all for charity. So we got talking and ended up walking together for a couple of days. And I think on the end of the first day or the second day, we set up camp, and I was having one of those isn't life brilliant moments. So like, we can just walk all day and just sit here, and we're gonna have a cup of tea, and it's all just fucking great, isn't it? And she said, yeah, I mean, it's been great since you got here, and I've been able to be a bit relaxed. But when I was on my own, I could walk 15-20 miles a day and look everywhere for a place to camp, and then finally set down and think I found the perfect spot. And even after I've got everything out of my bag and I set up my tent and everything, if a guy walks past walking his dog, or I see someone in the distance who might have seen me, I've got to pack it all up and move somewhere else. And it's so true. It's completely unfair, and the world sucks for that. But I got it. I understood. So yeah, obviously not everyone could do what I did, and I feel very lucky to have been able to. But yeah. So sorry, what's the question again?
So what are the other kind of like things in a similar vein that you could do? Like what I guess. Not to put words into Jacqueline's mouth, but obviously you're not going off doing massive, like walking along, the southwest coast path, for a laugh. What you are actually, aren't you? You did. I am, yeah. What are the things that you do, I guess, on your day-to-day basis to look after your mental health?
Okay, cool. So the things that really help me, I mean, I'll try and speak in as broader terms as possible. So being outside and being in fresh air, not just like kind of walking to the shops, but walking, like going somewhere specifically away from everything, and I feel really reset when I do that. But I mean, the thing that really makes me feel better about myself is the things that kind of build my self-esteem back up. So when I feel like I'm achieving something, that's really great for me. And doing something like I recognize as some small achievement, especially when I'm feeling a bit low, it's amazing. So I mean, that can be going for a run, or setting myself a certain amount of miles to do on a walk, or or even like you said, doing things that you've been putting off forever, just waking up and just tackling them, just doing it straight away. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of other things beyond the, eat more greens and go for a run.
You know what, Jake? Anything you answer is great, and I also get the sense that you're feeling a bit low, like right now, and I think that of just turning up, like that's an example to all of us, like that, like the doing service, and like, you know, it's that thing of just actually saying that sometimes there isn't anything we can really do for our mental health. Sometimes we've just got to sit with it. We've got to sit with our feelings, as painful as it is, and we can't walk them away. We can't work them away. We can't drink them away. We can't, you know, sometimes we just got to accept that's part of the human condition.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will, I don't think it's going to disappear anywhere anytime soon. I mean, I really think that a lot of my mental health problems come from being a part of a world that's just infinitely complex and so contradictory, and not really understanding my place in it, or feeling like I understand any of it. That makes me feel really low. I mean, more than anything, and it kind of, it makes me feel like a bit useless, you know, because I don't have a grasp on what's going on around me, and you know, the world changes so much, and there's all this information out there, and it's just really claustrophobic. And so I think that is why being outside it really, really works for me, because it's a break from all that.
Everything you're saying is really resonating. I'm aware that we haven't got masses of time left, and there's a few messages I just want to read out to you, because
cool.
They're really special, and also just that thing of letting other people know. Ems Finch says, your comment about being in nature resonates massively with me. I'm on a journey of healing from 2 miscarriages during lockdown, leaving me with PTSD, flashbacks and depression. I was drawn to laying under a tree one day and had an incredible experience which helped me start healing. I can't walk far or run as I'm disabled, but I'm painting hundreds of trees and that helps with my flashbacks and mood. Was there anything in particular in nature that you think really helped you? And that's from Ems Finch. Thank you, Ems.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Oh, that's so nice. It kind of makes me want to paint something. I mean, I really love that. I really love when people sort of get in touch, and you know, it's really great when people get in touch and say, oh, I go walking and I like being in nature, or I like running and stuff, and these things that I kind of do in my life. When people get in touch and say, you know, I've got into painting because this is what helps me, then I know people have really got it. Then, you know, it's not about doing the things that, you know, listening verbatim to the advice that you give, and you know, going outside and going for a run is really great, and drinking loads of water makes you feel, you know, it's about interpreting it in your own way. But to answer your question, the sea more than anything for me, it was the thing. I mean, I don't know what it is about it. It's just got this intensely calming, and it feels like you know, when I feel low, I feel like I'm really restricted in life and what I can do. And, you know, that could be because I don't feel like I'm able to do things, or I don't have the intelligence or know the people to do things. And I sort of, it makes me feel very sort of isolated. But looking at the sea, I get this sort of sense of infinite time and possibilities, because I can't see the end of it. You know, it's just for days, you know, it's just in front of me for days. And there's something about, and swimming in it as well. It's just, it's so, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence that you know, while I was on this walk, for the most part I was really happy, but I had this period in the middle where I was in the sort of Lake District, and then did Hadrian's Wall from west to east, and then I was just in the kind of centre, you know, just after you'd left me actually, in the sort of Peak District, Yorkshire Dales, all around there, where I had a bit of a wobble. And by the time I'd got to Newcastle, I was in a really, really dark place. And at the time, it was a few things. You know, a friend of mine back home had overdosed while I was away, and I could, you know, I was sort of dealing with that, but I was also dealing with just things within the walk that were really getting me down. And you know, when I got to Newcastle at that point, I was like on Trainline every day. Like, you know, if a ticket to go home comes up that's really cheap, I'm just going to get it, because like, fuck this is not what I want to do anymore. I managed. Through just complete fate, which was just what happened constantly on this walk, and I got talking to this woman who was just like this absolute shining light kind of person, you know, who would just talk me around and reminded me of everything and why I had to continue it. And she sort of gave me that extra push that I needed. And the next day I started walking along the coast up towards Edinburgh. And I did the whole coast, like the Northumberland coast, the Berwickshire coast, between Newcastle, you know, up through Bamburgh and North Berwick and then to Edinburgh. And just through being on the coast again, just from having the sea to my right again, I was just so much better. And couldn't really know why at the time, but you know, now, I mean, that was the great thing about writing the book, actually, is I realized certain things, like why I dipped while I was out there and why I kind of rallied, and what the common factors were in each one. And every time I was near the sea is where I felt like sort of most alive and like everything was fine again. So yeah, I would say the sea or water. Lochs in Scotland as well. I went swimming in a load of them. That's great fun too. So yeah, water for me.
Oh, I was swimming every day in Cornwall.
Yeah, so crazy. But I see you've got yourself one of them dry robes.
Oh yeah, dry robe wanker.
I heard that they actually can't keep up with demand anymore.
I mean, like I would wear one all day. Like,
yeah,
like very comfy. Anyway, listen, we've got loads more questions and I want to get through them before I let you go. Rachel Fryer asked, do you do anything particular to look after yourself physically so you can do the physical stuff to help your mental health, if that makes sense? Because she's saying she wants to do more running, but her body can't really manage it because of like fatigue and aches and stuff.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, I sort of do my warm up and warm down routine that I learned from my running coach from the program. So all that from Chevy, yeah. So I still use all that. I've got a very sort of specific stretching routine that I do.
I remember taking you to a yin yoga class.
Yeah, God, I forgot about that.
Like, stretch.
God, that was hard work. But I'm not a stretchy guy. I'm just kind of awkward and bony. I can't really stretch. But while I was running from Edinburgh to Brighton, that last 800 miles of the Britain thing, I found this 5 or 6 minute morning yoga routine on YouTube, and I did it every morning and every evening. And although I don't sort of do it because it does hurt, I don't like doing the yoga thing. I know it would be really good for me if I did it, but I just don't like the stretchy hurty stuff. So I mean, now before I go for a run, I do these like stretches, but I think I was at my sort of physical peak at that time, and I would have got myself into a lot more trouble had I not done this really light yoga first thing in the morning and then last thing at night. It really helped with sort of mobility and helped me kind of warm up and cool down. So although I don't use it that much anymore, I would suggest if you get sort of aches and pains and that sort of thing, that just that like yoga doesn't have to be this like, you know, standing on one finger thing. There's just absurd positions that people get in. This guy was literally just kind of rolling his ankle a little bit while looking at the sky, and yeah, there's loads of stuff like that out there. So I definitely recommend that if you feel a bit sort of creaky and unable to run. Yeah, a little bit of light yoga. It's very, yeah, that did me the world of good.
Ems has come back and said, thanks for your amazing answer. I'd love to paint some water with you one day, Jake. And then Sandra, she says to you, Jake, you have helped so many people through your writing, Jake. You are an amazing person. Never doubt your place in the world. Sending hugs. And then she wants to know, did you have a favourite place on your walk around the UK?
Thank you very much for that comment, first of all. That's lovely. Yeah, I do. There's a mountain pass in the Cairngorms called the Lerrig Grug, and it runs from Aviemore to Braemar. It's about 33 miles, and it's just an absolute dead zone. There's no phone signal, no sound of anything but the mountains. I mean, it sounds weird to say the mountains, but they have this really specific sort of moaning sound. But it's just a pass that runs through the Cairngorm Mountains, and it's just, I mean, epic doesn't even come close. I couldn't believe it when I was there. I couldn't believe that was in Britain. You know, it felt like I was on either the other side of the world or like on a different planet or something. And I mean, you know, although I loved being on the coast and all that sort of thing, in terms of like somewhere that was just totally different and just absolutely took my breath away. I think it was November when I was there as well, so the mountains on both sides of me were all snow-capped, and I mean, it actually ended up being a really hairy, quite scary walk through there in the end. But yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. There's just tons of grouse running around, and yeah, so yeah, in the Cairngorms in Scotland, that national park, that was probably my favourite.
Oh, Jake, I've been so inspired by you tonight. It's been so lovely. I want to go. Maybe not that 33-mile pass through the Cairngorms.
Oh yeah, there's no joke, that mountain pass. Yeah.
The last question is from Corey Walker, and they say, where can we get the book from?
You can, I think it was in most Waterstones if you want to. I actually saw it in a little bookshop in Devon when I was there, and that was really great. That was so nice to see. But actually, for I mean, I know we're all supposed to hate him, old Jeff, but for first-time authors, Amazon's actually a really helpful place to buy my first book from.
Or you can buy it, but leave a review on Amazon.
Yes.
As long as it's 5-star.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
my favorite reviews are the ones that are like, I couldn't give this no stars.
yeah.
1 star, but if I could have given it no stars, I would have done. I'm like, all right, God,
yeah,
you really don't like me, do you? I would give this book 10 stars if I could.
Whoa, out of 5.
And I remember you texting me to say, there's this title and I'm not sure about it, and I was like, that is an amazing title, and I'm so glad that you've written it and that it's done so well, and you know, I would urge everyone in the webinar tonight and everyone watching on YouTube, go and buy it. And Jake, I haven't even we've gone way over our time, so I'm just going to have to ask you back.
Yeah.
You know, it's always a pleasure, and I'm just sad that that we've had to do it. You know, this is like the first time we've properly connected in like a year, apart from
I know
messages and stuff. But when I've been listening to you, I've been like plotting adventures in my head. It's given me energy. I'm like, I've got some ideas I'm going to rope Jake into.
Yeah, do it. I need some adventure. I need to get that little part of me back. I think, especially at the moment, you know, it's you know, I went and did this little recce of the South Coast recently, and that was great. But yeah, I feel like I need that kind of sense of adventure, proper adventure back. I
think I've got one. I'm gonna let you know about.
Okay, cool.
Everyone, thank you so much for coming and asking amazing questions and sharing as well the really difficult parts of your life. That's what makes these things so special, is you guys as well as Jake, and me. Obviously, I make it special too.
The
Jake,
cherry on top.
Thank you so much for coming to Mental Health.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Yeah, everyone, get A Walk from the Wild Edge, and you can follow Jake on the Instagram. What's your Instagram, Jake?
It's Jake Tyler _BDW for Black Dog Walks.
Sounds like some sort of fetish thing.
Yeah.
Black Dog Walks. I get it. Okay. And obviously, if you would like to go on a Mental Health Mates walk, I'm pretty sure there's loads of amazing walk leaders in this webinar. But if you want to go on a walk, check out our website, www.mentalhealthmates.co.uk, and you can follow us on Instagram at Mental Health Mates. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jake. You're an absolute legend. Give us one last shot of the sea, please.
Okay, it's actually the Blackwater estuary, but the sun's just coming down now and the tide's still up. Isn't that beautiful?
Isn't that beautiful? I say what, Jake, let's invite everyone and go for a walk there soon.
Yes, all come round my mum's boat. Won't tell her.
Don't. Thank you, my love. Thank you, everyone.